Her 14-year-old son told one lie, and she threw her husband out of the house he was paying for in about 40 seconds. 3 weeks later came the text, "Be at the house at 6. We'll see whether any of this got through to you." She'd had 3 weeks to polish that sentence. What she didn't know was that he'd spent those same 3 weeks getting ready too. And when he rang the doorbell, he wasn't carrying an apology. Papers. Proof? Goodbye.
Bobby's back. Found this one on Reddit today, and it's been riding shotgun with me ever since. Everyone in that house thought they knew exactly how 6 o'clock was gonna go. Stay for the ending. It's the part nobody saw coming. Call him Calvin. Late 30s, the kind of guy who reads the manual before he plugs anything in. He met Renee when her son Dustin was 9, and he did the math going in. Package deal, kid comes first, that's the job. The boy's father was long gone by then. A ghost, the way Renee told it. Missed birthdays, moved out of state, the standard story. Put a pin in the way Renee told it. We're coming back for that. Calvin didn't try to be dad. He tried to be there. Mortgage on a house picked for the schools, his salary. Soccer season, his Saturdays, right up until the day Dustin quit. Parent-teacher nights where the words coming across the table were struggles with accountability, and Calvin sat there nodding while Renee explained to the teacher why none of it was ever quite Dustin's fault. You already know the shape of this house. Because here's the dance they'd been doing for 6 years. Dustin pushes. A slammed door, a dead-eyed whatever, homework that never existed. Calvin holds a line, any line, calmly. And Renee dissolves the line before dinner's over. He's sensitive. He's had it rough. You don't understand what it's like for him. Every rule got 1 day of enforcement and then a quiet funeral. And Calvin learned the special arithmetic of a stepfather. The kid can spend disrespect like pocket money, but the grown man pays interest on every single word back. In that house, patience wasn't a virtue. It was the rent Calvin paid to live in his own home. The fuse got lit over a computer, a gaming tower, the serious kind, $2,000 with the lights in the case. Dustin had the parts list saved and a speech prepared. Calvin didn't say no. Listen to what he actually offered. Bring the 2 failing grades up to passing by midterms, and the tower shows up for his birthday. Effort in, reward out. Simple. Dustin looked at him the way you'd look at gum on your shoe. And that night at dinner, the boy tried a different door. Mom says you can afford it. She says you're just being cheap. And there it was, the little knife. Because Renee had said that to a 14-year-old about her own husband. Calvin kept his voice level. Deal stands. Grades first. And Dustin reached for the oldest weapon in the stepkid arsenal. The one every stepdad in that thread has taken to the chest at least once. Not my dad, not my rules. Then he stood up, pushed in his chair, polite, unhurried, and said, "Okay, your call." The insult was old news. The calm right after it, that should have been the loudest alarm in the house. Sunday evening, Renee's in the backyard on her weekly call with her mother, a call that has run 45 minutes every Sunday since phones were invented. Calvin's in the garage with the sander going, refinishing a cabinet door, dust mask on, the machine loud in his ears, which means he doesn't hear the first crash. Upstairs, a hallway shelf comes down, bracket ripped clean out of the drywall. And by the time Calvin kills the sander and gets through the kitchen, Renee is already through the patio door and up the stairs. And Dustin is down on the hallway floor, slumped against the baseboard, holding his shoulder, crying, pointing past his mother at the man coming up the steps. "He grabbed me while you were outside. He said I embarrassed him at dinner." And here's a detail Calvin only understood later. The shelf was down, the frames on it scattered, but on the shelf right beside it,
3 photos stood in a perfect row. Not one of them so much as turned.
The kid dressed the set. He just forgot the props don't lie with him. 6 years of showing up, and the trial lasted about 40 seconds. Renee didn't scream. That's the part that stayed with him. She stood between her husband and her son, looked at Calvin like a stranger who'd wandered in off the street, and said low and final, "Take a bag, leave your key. I can't look at you right now." He said the obvious. "I'd been in the garage the whole time. I never touched him. Look at his face, he's not even hurt." She said her son doesn't invent things like this. And Calvin looked at Dustin over her shoulder, and the boy looked back, tears exactly where they needed to be. And underneath the tears, nothing. Flat, patient nothing. So Calvin packed one bag, set his key on the entry table, and drove to a motel by the interstate. The texts came over the next 2 days. The locks are changed. Dustin can't sleep in a house you have keys to. Then I told my mother, don't call her. Then the coldest one. Get help, Calvin.
Tried, convicted, and archived by text message from the woman who still had his ring on her hand. And before anybody starts drawing floor plans in the comments, she was outside. She never saw where anyone was standing. The kid picked the 1 half-hour all week when nobody could vouch for anybody. 14 years old. That is not a tantrum. That's a plan.
Something useful happens to a man the second night in a motel room, once the shock burns off. The hurt doesn't leave, it just gets boxed up and put on a shelf, and what's left underneath is very quiet and very clear. Calvin didn't drive past the house. He didn't send the 3-page text. He called an old college friend, family law guy, 20 years of divorces, laid it out flat, and got 3 rules in return. 1, you don't set foot on that property without a third party standing next to you, because right now, every story about you gets written by somebody else. 2, everything in writing from here on. Save it all. 3, and the lawyer leaned on this one. If anything turns up that helps you, you sit on it. Evidence spends once. You don't waste it winning a text argument at 2 in the morning.
Half the stories on that subreddit die right here. Guy finds the smoking gun and burns it by midnight, just to watch her face. This man listened. Remember that when we get to the door. Week 2, a Tuesday. His phone lights up with a number he barely knew. The mother of one of Dustin's friends. Her kid had shown her something and it was eating him, and she figured Calvin needed to see it before she decided what to do with it. 2 screenshots. The first was from the Thursday before the shelf came down. A clip from the skate park, posted by her son. Timestamped. Dustin coming off a rail sideways, hitting concrete shoulder first, getting up laughing. That purple bloom on his shoulder that Renee took photos of for her records, it was 4 days older than the crime. The second screenshot was from Sunday evening, sent to the group chat 31 minutes after Calvin's key hit the entry table. It worked, LOL. Tower by the weekend. The woman added one line of her own. My son didn't sign up to help frame a man. Calvin thanked her, saved everything the way the lawyer told him to. More than one copy, more than one place, and said nothing. Not to Renee, not to anyone. You see now why the lawyer made Rule 3 a rule?
Then came the strangest 3 weeks of his life, watching his own marriage die through a windshield of text messages. Week 1, prosecutor Renee. What you did, own it, don't contact us. Week 2, the tone slid. Dustin's having nightmares. This is hard on everyone. Week 3, I'd be open to discussing family counseling, for his sake. Every message was a fishing line, checking whether the man in the motel had softened up enough to come home guilty. He answered none of them. Quick one for you while we drive.
3 weeks, your phone lighting up like that? Would you have held the silence? Be honest. Hold that answer till the door. Meanwhile, his lawyer quietly filed. Divorce petition, his share of the equity in the house, unlawful lockout noted for flavor. Filed, but not served. Let her keep living inside her version a while longer, the lawyer said. People who are sure they've won stop checking their own story. And then, right on schedule, the summons. 6 o'clock tomorrow at the house. We'll see whether any of this got through to you.
He read it twice, put the phone down, and Calvin, first time in 3 weeks, smiled. The lawn needed cutting. The trash can was still at the curb 2 days late. Small things. A house quietly finding out what Calvin had actually been carrying. The lawyer had cleared the visit on one condition. Phone in the shirt pocket, recording from the second his shoes hit the porch. Rules are rules. Renee opened the door in full judge's robes, metaphorically speaking, and delivered the offer she'd clearly rehearsed on somebody. Full accountability. A sincere apology to Dustin. Sincere, she repeated, like she'd be grading it. Family therapy, all 3 of them. And then, maybe, a conversation about him coming home. Dustin sat on the stairs behind her, watching. Not gloating anymore. Watchful. 3 weeks is a long time for a lie to sit on a kid's chest, even a kid like this. Calvin heard the whole speech out. Then he handed her the envelope. The divorce filing on top. And under it, 2 printed pages. He watched her read. He watched her stop being an authority in her own hallway in real time. And he watched Dustin come down 2 steps, see his own group chat blown up to full page, and go the color of drywall. The boy actually said it. "Mom, that's fake. Somebody made that." Except it came off his best friend's account, with his best friend's name on it, and everyone in that hallway knew it. And Renee turned, not to Calvin, to her son. And the question she asked him, "What did you send?" was the first honest question that family had asked in 6 years. She tried to reel it back at the door. "We can talk about this. He's a child. You can't blow up a family over..." And Calvin gave her the only sentence he'd prepared, the one he'd had 3 weeks to make short. "You wanted to know what I took away from all this. Here it is. 6 years late, but here it is." He left the envelope in her hands, walked to his car past the trash can nobody had taken in, and drove away from the house he'd bought for a family that had a locked seat at its own table the entire time.
He didn't slam the door. He didn't have to.
The legal part was short, and short was the victory. Once the clip and the chat went across to her side, with the skate park timestamp sitting 4 days in front of the accusation, the story she'd been telling her lawyer, her mother, and herself folded like a lawn chair. No courtroom scene, no gavel moment. Real life doesn't do those. And half the thread wanted handcuffs for the kid. His lawyer's answer was the grown-up one. You don't rebuild a life by prosecuting a 14-year-old. You rebuild it by leaving. Just a settlement. His equity in the house paid out, her refinancing with her mother co-signing, his boxes packed by movers on a Friday while she stayed in the kitchen. He'd never adopted Dustin. 6 years, and the one paper he never got around to signing turned out to be the only lucky break in the whole story. No custody claims, no support, clean exit. The tower with the lights in the case never did show up. Lies are expensive. Somebody always ends up paying full retail.
Now the part 1 I promised you at the top. A month after everything was final, Calvin's phone rang. Ray, Dustin's father, the ghost, the deadbeat from Renee's stories, calling from 2 states away because word had finally crawled through the family grapevine. He asked for 5 minutes. He got them. And what he said rearranged the whole story Calvin thought he'd been living in.
10 years ago, Ray was the one with the temper. A temper no friend, no coworker, no relative had ever actually seen. Every argument in that house ended the same way, with what Ray had supposedly done, told to him by the only two witnesses that ever counted, mother and son. Version locked before he'd gotten a word in. I didn't walk out on my boy. I got written out of him, one story at a time. He'd stopped fighting it somewhere around year 2, paid what the paper said, and left the state to stop being the villain of a show he'd never auditioned for. Calvin wasn't the first man that house had convicted. He was just the first one who got out with the receipts.
Lock this in. The first husband didn't escape, and the second one didn't stumble in. Same script, new casting. An enabling mother isn't protecting her kid. She's arming him. And a boy who learns at 9 that mom's belief is a loaded weapon will spend the rest of his life looking for things to point it at.
Calvin's fine, by the way. And I mean actually fine, not Reddit edit fine. Small place, paid off faster than the big one ever would have been. Months later, he rolled up to a red light and her car settled into the lane beside him. Dustin in the passenger seat with his hood up. Nobody waved, nobody mouthed anything through the glass. The light went green and Calvin just drove. That was the whole reunion. And these days, when the quiet in the new place gets a little loud, he does the same thing I'm doing right now. Takes the long way home at night, windows down. Some men pay a therapist, some men just drive.
So, what's the aftertaste on this one? It's not the kid. Kids test fences. That's the job description. It's that the lie cost Dustin nothing to tell. 0. The price of detonating a marriage in that house was one performance and some free tears, because he knew from 10 years of watching that mom's verdict comes out before the evidence does. That's not a lie problem. That's a household policy problem. I went digging through the thread before I drove out tonight, and 3 comments wouldn't let go of me. 1, the first dad never walked out. He was walked out. Some houses only have room for one adult's version of events. 2, a parent who believes instantly isn't protecting a child. She's reloading him. And the third one was a guy who lived it. Same accusation, same divorce. A year later, she started calling again from numbers he didn't recognize. He never picked up once. Says he sleeps fine. And of course, somebody put the whole thing in gamer terms. You never load somebody else's save file. Crude? Sure. Show me where it's wrong. Now, tonight's argument. Pick a side and defend it. Renee? Villain or the first casualty of her own parenting 10 years before Calvin ever showed up? Calvin at the door? Was the envelope enough? Or did she have the whole speech coming? And the one I can't settle myself? What happens to Dustin now? The kid who finally got caught, home alone with the person who taught him how to aim. I go through the comments at red lights, so leave me yours. Just don't make me miss a green. You know what the like button's for if this one earned it. And right along next time, subscribe. The next story's already printed out on the passenger seat. Lock your doors tonight. You've seen why. Bobby out.